In today's class, we're going to practice and master both TOEFL writing tasks. They are Task 1, Integrated Writing, and Task 2, Writing for an Academic Discussion. For each task, we'll start with an overview. Then you have time to practice. And finally, we'll unpack a high-scoring sample response. Okay, let's begin with Task 1, Integrated Writing. In this task, you need to read a passage, listen to a lecture, and then write a summary of the points in the lecture, being sure to compare it to the reading passage. First, you'll see directions. They say, for this task, you will read a passage about an academic topic and you will listen to a lecture about the same topic. You may take notes while you read and listen. Then you will write a response to a question that asks you about the relationship between the lecture you heard and the reading passage. Try to answer the question as completely as possible using information from the reading passage and the lecture. The question does not ask you to express your personal opinion. You may refer to the reading passage when you write. You may use your notes to help you answer the question. Typically, an effective response will be 150 to 225 words. Your response will be judged on the quality of your writing and on the completeness and accuracy of the content. Then you'll see a reading passage that's about this long. You'll have 3 minutes to read the passage. As you read the passage, you should take notes of the main ideas and key details. Remember, you don't need to try to memorize the whole passage, as you'll see it again on the screen when it comes to writing your summary. Next, you'll see a photo of a professor giving a lecture, and you'll listen to the audio recording of the lecture. The lecture will last about 2 minutes. Again, you need to take notes during the lecture. You'll only hear the lecture once, so note-taking is very important. It's a good idea to set out your notes in 2 columns like this. The lecture and reading passage will be on the same topic, and the points made in the lecture will either challenge the points made in the passage or support those points. So it's a good idea to align your notes from the lecture next to corresponding points from the reading passage. So if the passage suggests 3 solutions to a problem, note down what the lecturer says about those solutions. After listening, you'll see this. There are more directions at the top. These say, read the question below. You have 20 minutes to plan and write your response. Typically, an effective response will be 150 to 225 words. And then you'll see the question below. In this case, the question says, summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific solutions presented in the reading passage. You're always asked to summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to compare it with the points made in the reading passage. This could either be explaining how the points cast doubt on the points in the passage or challenge those points. Or it could be explaining how the points support the points in the passage or strengthen points in the passage. And you can see you have the passage shown again on the left and space to type your answer on the right. Remember, this is meant to be a summary, so don't try to write everything down that was said. Try to cover all of the main points, but without focusing too much on the more minor or less relevant details. If you'd like to learn more about TOEFL Writing Task 1 and get some hands-on practice with the task, head to e2language.com and get started on your TOEFL preparation for free. Now, let's look at how TOEFL Writing Task 1 is scored. The TOEFL Integrated Writing Task is scored on a scale of 0 to 5 and then converted to a scaled score out of 30 for the writing section. So, the raters are looking at your content to see that you have all the important information presented accurately. They're looking at your organization of ideas and also your use of language. Okay, so now that you know what you need to do for this task and how to get a high score, it's time for you to practice. Okay, you have 3 minutes to read the passage, then listen to the lecture. Then you have 20 minutes to write your response. Are you ready? Start now.
Now listen to part of a lecture on the topic you just read about.
You've just read about 3 ways to save Torreya taxifolia. Unfortunately, none of these 3 options provides a satisfactory solution. About the first solution, reestablishing Torreya in the same location, that's unlikely to be successful because of what's happening to the coolest, dampest areas within Torreya's microclimate. These areas are being strongly affected by changes in the climate of the larger region. This could be because global warming has contributed to an increase in overall temperatures in the region, or because wetlands throughout Florida have been drained. Either way, many areas across the region are becoming drier, so it's unlikely that Torreya would have the conditions it needs to survive anywhere within its original Florida microclimate. Now, about the second solution, relocating Torreya far from where it currently grows, well, let's look at what happened when humans helped another tree, the black locust tree, move north to a new environment. When they did this, the black locust tree spread so quickly that it killed off many plants and trees in the new environment, and some of these plants and trees were themselves already in danger of becoming extinct. So assisted migration can have unpredicted outcomes for the new environment. Third, research centers are probably not a solution either. That's because the population of Torreya trees that can be kept in the centers will probably not be able to resist diseases. For a population of trees to survive a disease, it needs to be relatively large and it needs to be genetically diverse. Tree populations in the wild usually satisfy those criteria, but research centers would simply not have enough capacity to keep a large and diverse population of Torreya trees, so trees in such centers will not be capable of surviving diseases in the long term.
Summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific solutions presented in the reading passage.
Okay, how did that go? To help you evaluate your writing, let's take a look at a high-scoring response. We'll start with the notes. Here are the notes for this topic. The reading passage made 3 suggestions of how Torreya trees could be saved. It said Torreya trees could be planted in areas where they used to grow because of the favorable cool and wet microclimate there. It said they could be introduced in other areas with suitable environmental conditions. And it suggested they could be grown in research centers where they could be preserved and studied. Matching up with those points, the lecture said planting them where they used to grow was unsuitable because global warming and human activities have made that area warmer and drier, so the trees would be unable to survive. In relation to introducing them in other areas, the lecture said relocating the trees to a new environment can kill off other plants that are already there, and it gave the example of the black locust tree. Finally, in relation to growing the plants in research centers, the lecture said that research centers are small, so the tree population there would not be large and diverse enough to resist disease. Did you manage to note down all of those points? That's the main information we need to write a good response. So let's take a look at one now. Here's a high-scoring sample response. It's 250 words long and has a strong structure. Let's read it together. Torreya taxifolia is an evergreen tree that was once common in the Florida region but is now in danger of extinction, leading scientists to consider possible ways to save it. The professor talks about the first solution suggested by the reading passage, which is to reestablish Torreya trees in areas where they used to grow, with a cool and wet microclimate favorable to the growth of this species. The professor suggests this option will not be possible because global warming and human activities have made those areas warmer and drier, so it would be very challenging for the trees to survive there. The professor then addresses the suggestion from the passage that Torreya trees could be introduced to other areas with suitable environmental conditions. The professor also casts doubt on this option, explaining that this could endanger other plants native to those areas. The professor cites the example of the black locust tree, which when introduced to a new environment, spread to such an extent that it wiped out a large number of local plants and trees, making those species endangered instead. Finally, the professor discusses the final solution put forward by the reading passage, that torreya trees could be grown in research centers, allowing them to be not only preserved, but also studied. Once again, the lecturer notes that this is also not a fitting option, this time because given the limited size of research centers, the trees grown there would not be large or diverse enough to be able to resist disease. Okay, that's TOEFL Writing Task 1. Let us know in the comments if you would like us to take a deeper dive into Task 1 in some upcoming videos. And if you'd like expert feedback for Writing Task 1, head to e2language.com and take an assessment. Next task, Task 2, Writing for an Academic Discussion. In this task, you'll see a professor's question related to an academic topic along with responses from 2 students. Your task is to contribute your own response to the discussion by building on, refuting, or expanding upon the points made by the other students. First, you'll see directions. They say, for this task, you will read an online discussion. A professor has posted a question about a topic and some classmates have responded with their ideas. Write a response that contributes to the discussion. You will have 10 minutes to write your response. It is important to use your own words in the response. Including memorized reasons or examples will result in a lower score. Unlike Task 1, where you summarize and compare information, this task requires you to express your opinion and engage with the discussion in a meaningful way. Here's what it looks like. First, you'll see the instructions. They say, your professor is teaching a class on science. Write a post responding to the professor's questions. In your response, you should express and support your personal opinion and make a contribution to the discussion. An effective response will contain at least 100 words. Then you'll see a professor's question. It might say something like this. Space exploration began in the 1950s and is one of the main sources of space science. Yet most missions can cost 20 to 50 million US dollars per person. Some people think that space exploration is a waste of money, while others believe it is essential for technological progress. What do you think? Explain your reasoning. Below that, you'll see responses from 2 students. For example, Ralph says, I believe space exploration is essential because it drives technological progress. Many everyday items like GPS and medical imaging devices have resulted from space research. Without investment in space, we wouldn't have these important advancements. Gina says, I disagree. Space exploration is extremely expensive, and those funds could be used for urgent problems here on Earth like poverty and healthcare. Instead of spending billions on space missions, we should prioritize improving life for people who are struggling. Next, you'll see space to type your own response. Your response should clearly state your opinion. For example, you could agree with student 1 and provide an additional example of how space exploration benefits society. Or you could support student 2 and suggest alternative ways to use government funding. Let's quickly look at how Writing Task 2 is scored. The writing for an academic discussion task is also scored on a scale of 0 to 5 and then converted to a scaled score out of 30 for the writing section. So the raters are looking at your content, your vocabulary, and your grammar. Okay, now that you know what to do for this task and how to get a high score, it's time for you to try it yourself. Here's the question again. Take a moment to read the professor's question and the student responses below. Then pause the video and set a timer for 10 minutes to write your own response. Start now. How did that go? To help you evaluate your writing, let's take a look at a high-scoring response. Here it is. Let's read it together. While it is true that space exploration is a very costly endeavor, in my opinion, it is essential for technological progress. Firstly, investment in space technology has led to groundbreaking innovations that have transformed everyday life. For instance, NASA's research has contributed to the development of artificial limbs, better weather forecasting systems, and fire-resistant materials. These advancements have improved various industries from healthcare to disaster prevention, demonstrating that space exploration has practical and immediate applications on Earth. Secondly, space research plays a crucial role in addressing global challenges. Satellites monitor climate change, track deforestation, and predict natural disasters, providing valuable data that helps governments make informed environmental policies. Without these contributions, efforts to combat global warming and resource depletion would be significantly hindered. So, how did this response compare with yours? After looking at this, can you think of any improvements you could make? Remember, the key to success in this task is to write a clear and well-supported opinion that engages with the discussion. Keep practicing and you'll be well prepared for test day. And if you'd like expert feedback for writing task 2, head to e2language.com and take an assessment and receive a detailed feedback report from an E2 expert teacher, showing you where you made mistakes and how you can improve them. So that concludes our TOEFL writing practice test. Good luck with your studies, and we'll see you next time.